Let's go to the legislation put into the Parliament today. Ordinarily, this happens quite routinely on a Thursday. It wasn't brought on for debate. It'll be debated next year, of course. This is the Referendum Machinery Provisions Amendment Bill. It sounds benign. It's not benign. I went through it at the top of the show. It's pretty stealthy, and it'll stop the publication for the first time of an official pamphlet by the Electoral Commission that would have gone out to all voters if it passes, of course. And this pamphlet would have the yes case and it would have the arguments for the no case about the Voice proposal. The government wants to scrap that. It says people can go online if they want information. They can look at media campaigns. They say we're not going to fund one. Previously, governments have funded a yes campaign, a public media campaign, and a no campaign. They're not going to do that. But they're also not going to give them the pamphlets. Now, if you think your argument, Prime Minister, for a yes vote on the Voice is good and strong, well, why hide the information? What are you so scared of?
Yeah, well, I think that's dead right, Peter. I think this is a very sinister development. There's an element now of North Korea or Cuba about this debate. I mean, anyone who opposes the Voice is called a racist and subject to the most vituperative, personalised, vicious criticism, which is designed to intimidate other people from engaging in the debate. I'm full of praise for the Nationals for opposing the Voice on principle. Peter Dutton made a good closing the gap speech and everything, but he is saying way too much about we need more detail and there's not enough information yet. You don't need any detail, you don't need any information. It's a question of principle. Do you support a race-based body in the Constitution or not? You've got to reject it in principle, not for any practical reason, although, of course, it's very likely that the Voice will do nothing to benefit Aboriginal living conditions. But what they're saying in refusing to have even the yes and the no 2,000-word essay is that they are so terrified of the weakness and the shallowness of support for this proposal, so terrified that the arguments for this proposal are so loopy that they're scared even if Australian voters get one 2,000-word article. Now, we know that the social media people are going to censor the no case. We know that the government is going to pay for a yes case under the guise of an education campaign. We know that any corporation that funds a no case will be subject to a savage social media boycott. I mean, there's the whiff of the Red Guards about this, that nobody is allowed. You are all free to agree and hold one position. Nobody is allowed to disagree.
You are right to say that they'll use this education campaign, $75 million for that and other things in the budget, $75 million, to run the argument about the yes case. But obviously there's nothing there for the no case. There's also this line in the legislation today, countering misinformation. Now, what does that mean? Who's going to be the arbiter of what's considered misinformation? You've written a terrific piece about the Voice. I've got a little booklet we'll put on the screen for the Centre for Independent Studies. Now, if this legislation passes, Greg, will your monograph there be considered misinformation? And who's going to decide that? And who's going to then shut down or cancel considered debate in opposition to the Voice?
Well, you're right, Peter. Thanks for referencing that essay. I wrote that for the Centre for Independent Studies, and they've only produced a small number of physical copies, but it's on their website. It's a 9,000-word essay on why I think the Voice contradicts the basic premise of liberalism, is against democracy, is against universal citizenship, and is very dangerous because it's based on the proposition that normal parliamentary democracy doesn't work for a certain minority, which means that it might not work for any minority, or one day it might not work for the majority. Now, I'd say in a career of nearly 45 years in journalism, many, many times federal governments have regarded what I write as misinformation and dangerous. That I would wear that with an absolute badge of honour. But in this case, the authorities of state censorship will be able to counter, if not completely suppress, the normal debate. So if somebody says, in effect, the Voice will act like a third chamber because it may very well have the power to delay legislation. Now, that might be wrong, but it's certainly a very arguable case. But the government would jump on that and say, no, that's not true. So there is a problem with misinformation in our society where people say, you know, there are secret conspiracies run by the lizard Illuminati to poison our water or something like this. Okay, if that gets out there, that's a bit dangerous. But it's best to handle bad speech by more free speech. The government, it shouldn't be up to the government to decide what is disinformation. And there is no disinformation about The Voice. This is an utterly disgraceful, utterly undemocratic procedure. You know, the Labor Party used to care about civil liberties and the rights of dissent. And what's happening here is that they are so scared that this proposal is so ropey that they are determined not to let the no case be heard. And I haven't heard from any proponent of The Voice a single word of respect for any opposition to The Voice. There is no acknowledgement that you could oppose The Voice for any reason other than patriotism, other than racism or meanness or something. In other words, the proponents of The Voice do not even accept the legitimacy of arguments and that was against The Voice, and that was seen in Noel Pearson's disgraceful attack on Senator Jacinta Price.